Banshee, the harbinger of death and sorrow. Picture yourself standing alone on a foggy night in the Irish countryside. The air is thick with silence until it's shattered by an eerie wail, a cry so haunting it chills you to the bone. That sound, they say, belongs to the Banshee, a supernatural being whose mournful cries foretell imminent death. The legend of the Banshee has endured for centuries, originating in ancient Irish mythology and spreading fear among those who believe in her. But who, or what, is this mysterious figure? Is she a ghost, a spirit, or something else entirely? And why does her presence inspire both fear and sorrow? Let's dive into the story of the Banshee to discover what makes her one of the most haunting figures in folklore. The word Banshee comes from the Irish term Banshee, pronounced Banshee, which translates to woman of the fairy mound. In Irish mythology, fairy mounds, or side, were considered entrances to the otherworld, a mystical realm inhabited by spirits, gods, and supernatural beings. The Banshee is said to be one such spirit, connected to the world of the dead. The legend of the Banshee is deeply rooted in the idea that certain families had spiritual guardians. According to tradition, she would attach herself to noble Irish families, especially those with surnames like O'Neill, O'Brien, or O'Connor, and wail when a member of the family was about to die. Over time, however, the myth expanded, and her appearance became an omen of death for anyone who heard her. The Banshee's cry was believed to be both a warning and a form of mourning, signaling that someone's time on Earth had come to an end. While this sounds terrifying, it's important to note that the Banshee wasn't always considered malevolent. Her wail was sometimes seen as a gesture of sorrow and compassion for the souls soon to depart. Descriptions of the Banshee's appearance vary greatly across different legends. In some stories, she is portrayed as a beautiful young woman, her long silver hair flowing in the wind and her eyes red from endless weeping. In this form, she embodies the idea of a tragic, sorrowful spirit, her beauty tainted by the sadness she carries. In other versions of the legend, the Banshee takes on a more frightening appearance, becoming an old, haggard woman with pale, wrinkled skin and hair as white as bone. Her clothes may be tattered, and her hands, thin and claw-like, add to her eerie aura. Some say she wears a gray or green cloak, while others claim she dresses in funeral garments stained with the blood of the deceased. Despite these differing descriptions, certain traits remain constant. The Banshee is always a spectral figure, hauntingly otherworldly, and her presence brings with it a sense of impending doom. Her wail, high-pitched and sorrowful, is said to be so piercing that it can shatter glass and chill even the bravest heart. The Banshee's wail serves as a powerful metaphor for grief, loss, and the inevitability of death. Just as her cry cannot be ignored, death is unavoidable, no matter how much we fear it. The Banshee acts as a reminder of mortality, a supernatural herald from the otherworld, letting us know that life is fragile and fleeting. In some versions of the myth, the Banshee is not merely a messenger but a spirit bound by grief. Some legends suggest that she was once a human woman who died of sorrow, unable to move on from the loss of a loved one. Others say she is the soul of a woman who died violently or tragically, cursed to mourn for eternity. The duality of the Banshee, sometimes beautiful, sometimes terrifying, reflects the two sides of death itself. It can be seen as a peaceful release from suffering or a frightening, sorrowful event. Her presence teaches that grief is both a burden and a way of honoring those who have passed on. Throughout history, countless stories of encounters with the Banshee have been passed down through generations. Some describe her as appearing outside a window at night, her face pressed against the glass, while others claim to have seen her drifting through the misty fields, her cry echoing across the landscape. Many tales describe families hearing the Banshee's wail shortly before the death of a loved one. In one well-known story, a nobleman riding home late at night heard the mournful cry of the Banshee as he approached his estate. Upon arriving, he discovered that his father had passed away only minutes earlier. There are also legends of travelers who encountered the Banshee on lonely roads. In these stories, she appears as an old woman begging for alms, only to disappear into thin air once her wailing begins. Such tales serve to reinforce the idea that death is unpredictable. It can come for anyone, at any time, and from any direction. Like many other mythological beings, the Banshee has found a place in modern pop culture, appearing in movies, TV shows, and video games. Her haunting presence and connection to death make her a compelling figure for horror and fantasy narratives. Below are some notable examples. Television asterisk in the TV show Teen Wolf, a Banshee character named Lydia Martin plays a key role, using her abilities to sense death and uncover supernatural threats. Movies asterisk films like Darby O'Gill and The Little People, 1959, depict the Banshee as a terrifying spirit, reinforcing her image as a harbinger of doom. Video games asterisk the Banshee appears in games such as Dragon Age Origins, where a mournful scream has deadly effects on those who hear it. These modern interpretations continue to evolve, showing that the Banshee remains a relevant figure, both as a terrifying supernatural being and as a symbol of grief and loss. From a psychological perspective, the Banshee represents the fear of the unknown and the inevitability of death. Her cry forces people to confront their mortality, something humans have struggled with throughout history. In this way, she serves as a reflection of our deepest anxieties, those we try to bury but can never fully escape. Her unpredictable nature also symbolizes the randomness of death. We never know when the Banshee might appear or whose name she might call. This uncertainty taps into the universal fear of losing control, reminding us that life is fragile and death can strike at any moment. The legend of the Banshee endures because it touches on emotions and fears that are as old as humanity itself. Her mournful cry speaks to the sorrow of loss, the inevitability of death, and the importance of mourning those who pass. Whether she is viewed as a guardian spirit or a harbinger of doom, the Banshee continues to captivate and terrify those who hear her story. Even today, in a world far removed from the ancient Irish countryside where her legend began, the Banshee's wail can still send shivers down the spine. She is a reminder that death is never far away, and that we should cherish life while we can. So, the next time you find yourself alone on a misty night, listen closely. If you hear a mournful cry in the distance, beware, it may be the Banshee calling someone home.